Welcome to the Long Live Alternative Parties podcast. Today, friends, we have another exciting guest on our podcast. Her name is Jennifer Bullock with Pennsylvanians Independence. I'm sorry, what's the name of the organization?
It's okay. Independent Pennsylvanians.
Independent Pennsylvanians. So she's going to talk to us about the exciting things that she's been doing with the organization and what the organization has been doing. So welcome to the podcast, Jennifer.
Thank you for having me.
If we could get started by you kindly giving us an introduction to yourself, a brief biographical sketch.
Sure. Well, again, my name is Jennifer Bullock, and I live in the Philadelphia region in Pennsylvania. I've been here most of my life. I have been an activist, a voting rights activist, and an activist for better elections in a political system since I was in college, which was almost 40 years ago.
Oh my.
I am a psychotherapist in a private practice. I specialize in helping people in their relationships, and that has been a benefit to me in my political activism work, as you can imagine.
Oh, sure, yeah. So what led you to your organization? How did that organization get started, and how did you get affiliated with it?
Sure. So, like I said, I've been an activist with various movements and organizations since I was a college kid. And then about, 20-something years ago, I got more involved with a national group, independent voting, that with a mission of organizing and building the power and voice of independents and independent-minded voters and citizens across the country. And we had some national projects. We were involved in the Reform Party early on, the Patriot Party, party building. And that kind of, that ran its course. And we wanted to actually move away after a few years, and we wanted to move away from building a third party and focus all of our resources on state by state, reaching out to independents and independent-minded voters to build a movement. And that's when I founded Independent Pennsylvanians.
Okay.
And I can tell you a little bit about our group, but I don't know if that was going to be your next question.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that'd be perfect. You can do that.
Okay. So, Independent Pennsylvanians is about 20 years old, a little bit less, maybe 18 years old. And we early on started talking to folks who were concerned with the unfair regulations and laws for third parties and independents who wanted to run for office. So our very early on efforts focused on ballot access reform, because as you might know from the title of your podcast and other people you interview, many states have a bias against third parties and independents running that looks like, the amount of signatures you have to get on the ballot, what signatures are taken off, etc., is biased towards the two major parties. So we did that for a couple years, and then kept on hearing from people when we were doing outreach on the street about our primaries, and that independents in Pennsylvania can't vote in the primary. And we thought, wow, that really is going to be our passion issue, because it's about voters and voting rights.
Sure.
So we quickly took on the mission of opening our closed primary system in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is one of 9 states that has completely closed primaries. And what that means is that, if you're not a registered Democrat or Republican, you cannot participate in the primary, which is essentially the first round of elections,
Sure.
which chooses who will be on the general election. So independents and people in third parties can vote in the general election, but they cannot vote in that first round. I can talk at length about why that's a problem and why we care so passionately about that. But I don't know if that's where you wanted me to go next, or if there was more you wanted me to say about independent Pennsylvanians and our activities.
Yeah, that would be good in a second to talk about that. I'm wondering, in Pennsylvania, do you have party registration?
We have party registration, correct.
Okay.
So
you know exactly how many independents there are and how many are affiliated with each party in the state of Pennsylvania?
Yes, there are independents and people outside of the 2 parties is the fastest growing segment of registration, not only across the country, but in Pennsylvania. And we currently have approximately 1.4 million voters, registered voters, who are independent, who are outside of that 2-party system, which is why the primary issue is such an important voting rights issue. We're not talking about a couple thousand people. We're talking about 1.4 million and growing who are locked out of any say at all in the first round of elections, even though those elections are publicly funded. So the very weak and obnoxious argument by partisans that, well, the primary is for Republicans and Democrats to choose their candidate, falls short when we remind them that we all pay for that election.
Yes.
Yet are barred from participating.
Good point. So what's the ideal? Because do you think an independent should get to vote in one primary, they get to choose a primary, or how would that work in an ideal situation?
Okay, well, I'm really glad you asked in that language what would be the ideal situation. So I'd like to first tell you what change we are advocating for currently, and then also what I think is actually even more ideal than that.
Okay.
So I appreciate the way you frame that. So for many years, we've been gathering more and more support for bills that come through the legislature that are technically would make Pennsylvania a semi-open primary state. So from completely closed to semi-open. And what that means is that independents, non-affiliated voters would be able to go on a primary and choose to vote in either the Democratic or the Republican primary. You obviously couldn't do both. You wouldn't have to change your registration. You can go in, here's my voter registration. Yes, I'm an independent, but we have a semi-open primary, so you will now permit me to either vote for the Democratic or the Republican candidate that's listed on the primary of my choosing. That is called a semi-open primary.
Oh.
That, in my opinion, is kind of the low-hanging fruit. The change in the election law that is most palatable to legislators and partyists who have been used to a closed primary system. What I think is ideal is not having a party registration connected to any election. So my hope and dream is to get to the point where Pennsylvania and all states have elections where you do not, it's disconnected from your party registration. So there can be a first round of voting where every registered voter can vote, and it's like secondary where you're registered. And then a second round of election where every registered voter, regardless of affiliation, can participate.
Okay.
Uh,
So it'd be like the top.
that's more ideal
Okay,
to
so it'd be
me.
like the top 5. So
Yeah, it
like
would be
top
similar to
5.
what. Yeah, it would be similar to the models that you might know about in California and in Alaska and in state level in Louisiana. I believe there's some states that have various versions of like a top 2, top 4, or top 5. So yes, I think that's more ideal and more democratic than what we're currently advocating for as a strategic choice to even bust open closed primaries. And once we do that, then we can advocate for something more like a first round, second round, and then maybe have a ranked choice.
Oh, okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh, sure.
But by the way, just a side note, because ranked choice voting is a very popular reform effort. In my opinion, that is important, but the reason why we choose primaries is that it's an essential voting rights issue.
Huh.
Whereas ranked choice voting and other reforms still can keep independents out. It's just making whoever can currently vote a better system. You see what I'm saying?
Okay. So you see ranked choice voting as not a cure-all.
No, I do not.
Okay, interesting. So you see the primary issue as more, pardon the pun, more primary than the other election reform issues.
I do.
Okay. So what do you think is the ideal number to be in to make the first round of primary? Do you think it's 4, 5, 2? What do you think is the perfect number?
Can you ask that question again?
Sure. So we're talking about how in the primary system that we want, there's going to be a couple rounds. So the first
Yeah.
round, there's going to be lots of people, and then it's going to narrow it down. So what do you think for the final round there should be? Should there be 5 people in the final round, 10 people, 2 people? What should it be?
Oh, that's a great question. I actually, to be honest, haven't thought much about that because we've been so busy just trying to get our voting rights. So I'm not sure. I don't think I have an opinion on that. Hopefully we
Okay.
get to the point where we are looking at that.
Yeah.
I don't know do you have an opinion on that?
That's a good question. We've had people on the podcast who they talked about how there's research backing that 5 is about the max that people can process. Because if you have
Yeah.
too many, they think if you have 100
It's too
choices, that's too
overwhelming.
much.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like California that one year when Arnold Schwarzenegger ran, they
Yeah.
had tons of people on the ballot, and that was overwhelming. So some people who are alternative parties are going to say, that's fine, we want as many people as possible. Others are going to say, no, that's going to still make the ballot too cluttered and too confusing, and that's going to deter
Yeah.
people. So,
I see.
so maybe the 5 would be the ideal number or something like that. And the thing that would be important is if it could be set up so we would assure that not one party would dominate. In some of the states, I would be afraid that there would be all Republicans in the final round or all Democrats. Do you see that as a problem, or do you think that this is not going to be a problem?
Well, I don't know that. I don't know. It might be an issue if we get there, and if it is, then we can look at how to change that up.
Okay.
But again, similar to my response to your question you just asked, I hope in a way, I'm being a little bit tongue in cheek here. I hope we get to the point where we have those problems. If
Okay.
I can vote in elections that I pay for, which I cannot now, I hope that we get to struggle with, oh my goodness, now we have a better system, but every year it keeps on being like 5 Democrats, or every year it keeps on being 6 Republicans on the, I hope we get there, and then we can figure out what changes we need to make then.
Okay, gotcha.
But you see what I'm saying? Like, I think there's a way in which, at least in my opinion, and I don't mean this disrespectfully to people who really care about getting in the weeds of alternative election systems. I just feel like it's make believe. It's make believe arguing until we actually have full voting rights.
Okay, fair enough. So how do you plan to get there? In Pennsylvania, do you have ballot initiatives, or is it something that has to pass the legislature, a constitutional amendment? How do you plan to implement this?
In Pennsylvania, I wish we had citizen initiatives, because then, it would be passed years ago. But in Pennsylvania, you have to change the law through the legislature.
Oh, okay.
So that's why for years now we've been working with legislatures in Harrisburg, which is our state capital, to introduce and support a bill that would open the primary. And like I said earlier, it's technically called a semi-open primary. And the distinction there is, we're not advocating for a full open primary where, say, a Democrat can vote in the Republican voting booth, or the Republican can vote in the Democratic voting booth. It's purely non-affiliated voters can go in and participate in the primary. That's what we've been advocating for through legislative bills for many years, and we have been gathering momentum. So it used to be, when we started off, many legislators were like, what? No, this works better for us. We can just talk to hyper-partisan voters and kind of like have our little system locked down. See you later, bye. But over the years, more and more rank-and-file legislators have been very much in support of opening the primary, because they're finally seeing that actually this benefits me. I get, when I'm running in the primary, I get to talk to everyone, not just the narrow swath of hyper-partisans, which is the people that come out to vote in the primary and closed primary states. I get to talk to everyone, and I have a broader voting bloc that I can perhaps persuade, and that benefits all of us. So we're luckily at a point now where if you talk to rank and file legislators, many of them support the bills that keep coming through every legislative session. We have 2 bills now, one in the Senate, one in the House, and it's supported, bipartisan support. Who is not moving and is blocking us are the party leaders. Party leaders, which is understandable if you think about it, because the party leaders, their job is keeping the party apparatus and in power.
Awesome.
So they are the head of the Senate in Harrisburg, the head of the House in Harrisburg, they're harder to persuade. But your rank and file legislators, over the last 20 years of our advocacy efforts, we've really won them over. Which is why I think I think in the next few years this is going to happen.
Wow.
And then, like we were talking about it a minute ago, then we can maybe work on even higher order reforms.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful to hear, your optimism about that and your progress you made. That's great.
Yes, I feel very proud of that. And, we have, partly why we've built momentum is, our little group has been at it for many years, the little engine that could, going out, talking to ordinary voters, having gatherings in coffee houses, et cetera, having a primary day, informational picket every year, which is a lot of fun. But we also are part of a coalition, Ballot PA, and Let Us Vote and Open Primaries, as well as us, Independent Pennsylvanians. So now all of those groups have joined forces to help take us to the finish line.
Okay, please tell me more about that picket day. It's called What's it called?
Yes. Oh, I love talking about it. And if you want, I can send you some pictures and videos of this year's primary day informational picket.
Oh, okay.
Every year on Pennsylvania's primary on May 20th this year, we pick a polling site or several polling sites, and we have signs up and flyers we're handing out with the theme, I can't vote today, ask me why.
Oh, wow.
And some of our signs say that. Some of our signs say 1.4 million voters are blocked out today. Do you think that's fair? No taxation without representation. It's the easiest sell ever. You know, close to 80% of voters when we poll them, and when independent pollers poll them, say, yeah, sure. Why? I don't know. I didn't even know independents couldn't vote. Of course they should be able to vote. Of course,
Wow.
hyper-partisans don't agree with that for obvious reasons. Oh, no, we have our party thing, but we are passionate about the two major parties being participants in the elections, not gatekeepers and controllers of them. And everyone at this point can see why, given the state of our country.
Oh, sure. Sure. Wow, that's encouraging to have 80% of the people supporting this.
Yes, in Pennsylvania, yes, it's really an easy sell. So on our informational picket day this year, we had people from our coalition, Let Us Vote, Open Primaries, Ballot PA, and us, Independent Pennsylvanians. And we did this fun thing where we walked with our signs to several polling sites, and we did like impromptu man on the street interviews.
Oh.
Like, hey, would you be willing to us video you? And we asked this question, you know, we can't vote today. We're blocked from voting. What do you think about that? And then, you know, the person, you know, will say like, oh, that's ridiculous, or I didn't know that, or I was in a state where independents can vote, and when I moved here, I was shocked to find out I couldn't, that kind of thing. So it was a really, really fun, successful day. We had some media come out and interview us. And then, like I said, we did impromptu man on the street interviews and, you know, walked around. We chose Philadelphia this year. We kind of go around to different parts of the state in different years. Some years we've done a thing where it's a social media informational picket where we ask people across the state to make a little video with a sign held up and put it all on their social media. So we've done, you know, various fun things, to engage the community and remind the community, of this important issue.
Sounds good. So since it sounds like you've had success with talking to legislators, what would you advise to people who are listening to this podcast who are involved in nonpartisan organizations like yours or alternative parties, and then they want to get the ears of legislators? What's your best strategy for that?
Build relationships, and remember that this is a marathon, not a sprint. So
Okay.
a lot of folks that are just coming around to election reform, nonpartisan movements are understandably like itchy, like this is ridiculous. Okay, let's get this done. And when they hear that we've been working on this for decades, it's like, what? And it's like, yes, you have to build relationships with the gatekeepers. You have to build relationships with regular people on the street. You have to do both. You know, the traditional language of doing grass tops and grassroots strategy is really, really important. If you only talk to people on the street, then the legislators or the powers that be can keep on doing what they're doing. But if you only talk to the powers that be, then you don't have a movement you're building to put pressure on the legislators. So I think it's important to do both. And
Sounds like
the
it.
way you build relationships is that you stay in touch regularly. One of the things we've been doing the last couple years is, in addition to the traditional emailing and calling, we write handwritten notes
Oh, sure.
regularly to legislators. Legislators who were engaging with us tell us if you get a mailed handwritten note to you by a constituent, that's going to go on the top of their pile.
Ooh, that's good. That's good to hear. I trust
Yeah.
our audience is listening to that and taking that into consideration. That's good to hear. Oh, that's good advice.
Yeah. No, I found it helpful too. Because, we're also used to like, okay, call your legislator, send the email, you get
Yeah.
these email blasts and you push, you click on and it sends the pre-form note. And we all should do all that regularly. But anything that's personalized, going to your legislator when they're off session and in town, meeting up with them at festivals, really relationship building. You see my relationship therapist stuff come through. Like
Oh, wow, yeah.
relationship building is the key.
Okay. Yeah, that's good advice. That's good advice. That you introduced me to a new term. Of course, I've heard of grassroots before. I never heard the term grass tops before. So that's interesting.
Yeah. When I learned that, I learned that term just a few years ago myself, and I think it's really helpful
Yes.
to kind of frame, the strategies and tactics that we want to put together when we're trying to make a better democracy.
Yes. That sounds like a wise approach. You
Mhm.
cover both parts of the spectrum, so that's great.
Mhm.
So Jennifer, how can our audience support your organization?
Oh, okay. Well, you can go to our website, which is www.paindependence.org, or you can check out Ballot PA, www.ballotpa.org. We have friendly, informative Zoom discussion meetings the second Monday night of every month. Everyone is invited, and it's like just a great place to talk about what's happening in our state, what's happening in the country, how can we make better changes to our election system and our political system so that ordinary citizens actually have a voice.
Okay. Good stuff.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Of course. We wish you all the best in your organization. We also wish you the best in your psychotherapy practice, and we wish you the best in everything else you do in your life.
Thank you so much. And you
All
take
right.
care.
You too. Bye now.
Bye.